Have you ever wondered why certain people seem to live in your mind rent-free? It's not just the fleeting thoughts that come and go. It's that one person who lingers in your consciousness, showing up in your dreams, in quiet moments, or even during the most unexpected times. No matter how much time has passed, they remain present, almost like an echo reverberating through your soul. So, what's the spiritual meaning of constantly thinking about someone? Could it be more than just memory or longing? Could it be that there's something deeper at play, something beyond the surface of what we understand? In many spiritual traditions, it's believed that when you're constantly thinking about someone, it's because there's an energetic connection between you. We're not just physical beings moving through life. We're energetic beings, constantly interacting with and exchanging energy with those around us. And sometimes, a person's energy leaves a lasting imprint on your soul. This connection could be karmic, a tie from a past life that hasn't yet been resolved. It might be that your souls have unfinished business, lessons to learn, or healing to do together. When someone stays on your mind like this, it can be a sign that there's something within you that still needs attention. Perhaps it's an unresolved emotion, a wound that hasn't fully healed, or even a longing for closure or clarity. But it's not always about karmic ties. Sometimes, constantly thinking about someone is a reflection of what they represent in your life. They might be mirroring something back to you, a part of yourself that's asking to be seen. Maybe they remind you of a time when you felt truly alive, or perhaps they trigger feelings of insecurity or fear. Either way, they're acting as a mirror, showing you what's alive within your heart. And this is where things get interesting, because in many ways, our thoughts aren't always about the other person. They're about us. When someone occupies our minds so fully, it's often because they're stirring something deep within us. It's not just about who they are, but what they evoke in us: memories, emotions, desires, fears, or even dreams of what could have been. Think about it. Have you ever noticed that the people who stay on your mind the longest tend to be the ones who had the greatest impact on your heart? It's not always about romantic love. It could be someone who inspired you, challenged you, or changed the way you see the world. They left an energetic mark, and that's why their presence lingers in your mind. On a spiritual level, thinking about someone constantly can also be a call to look inward. It's an invitation to explore what this connection is trying to teach you. What is it about this person that keeps drawing your attention? Is it love, longing, regret, or perhaps something deeper, something that goes beyond words? Sometimes, thinking about someone is less about them and more about what they represent, a gateway to your own healing, your own self-awareness. There's also a belief that when you're thinking about someone intensely, it's because they're thinking about you too. It's as if your thoughts are energetically intertwined, creating a silent, invisible dialogue between your souls. This is especially common in spiritual connections like soulmates or twin flames, where the bond transcends physical distance. You might feel drawn to them, not because you're imagining things, but because your souls are reaching out to each other across the energetic plane. But it's important to approach this with balance. Just because you're thinking about someone doesn't always mean they're meant to be in your life in a physical sense. Sometimes the spiritual purpose of constantly thinking about someone is to help you learn how to let go, to help you release attachments, expectations, or the idea that you need someone else to complete you. It's not about clinging to the thought of them. It's about understanding why they're on your mind in the first place. What are they awakening within you? What are they asking you to see? Sometimes it's a reminder to reconnect with parts of yourself you've forgotten. Your joy, your creativity, your sense of wonder. Other times, it's a call to heal old wounds, to release the past, or to open your heart to new possibilities. And this is where spiritual growth happens. When you stop seeing the constant thoughts as a burden and start seeing them as a message from your soul, guiding you toward deeper self-awareness. Because ultimately, the spiritual meaning of constantly thinking about someone isn't about the other person. It's about you. It's about your journey, your healing, your growth. If you're constantly thinking about someone, try sitting with the thoughts instead of pushing them away. What do they bring up for you? Is it love, pain, longing, or perhaps a mix of everything? Allow yourself to feel without judgment. And as you do, you might start to notice that the thoughts aren't as overwhelming as they once seemed. They're simply reminders of where you've been, what you've learned, and what's still calling for your attention. And sometimes, when you stop resisting the thoughts and start embracing them as part of your spiritual journey, something shifts. The energy begins to move. The hold that person had on your mind starts to loosen, not because you're forcing it, but because you're learning what you needed to learn. You're finding closure, not in their actions, but in your own heart. In this way, constantly thinking about someone becomes less about obsession and more about transformation. It becomes a path to deeper understanding, a doorway to your own soul. And whether that person remains in your life or not, you carry the lessons with you. You carry the growth, the healing, the love. So, if someone is on your mind, honor it. Honor what they represent. Honor the journey they've been a part of. And most importantly, honor yourself, because at the heart of this experience is your own spiritual awakening. After all, isn't that what life is really about? Growth, connection, and remembering who we are beneath it all. And sometimes, the people we think about the most are the ones who help us remember, even if they do so from afar. Now, let's take a moment to explore what it means when someone stays on your mind so persistently. Sometimes, it's not just a message or a call to healing. It's a signal that there's a deeper soul contract at play. Soul contracts are those agreements we make before we come into this life, often with people who will play significant roles in our personal evolution. These roles aren't always comfortable. They can bring both love and pain, joy and challenge. But the purpose is always the same: to help us awaken, to help us remember who we are beyond the surface. When you find yourself constantly thinking about someone, it could mean that they're fulfilling one of these soul contracts. Maybe they've come into your life to teach you something, or maybe they've come to trigger a part of you that needs healing. Sometimes, we resist these connections because they stir up things we'd rather not face. But the more we resist, the more persistent the thoughts become. It's as if your soul is saying, pay attention. There's something important here. It's not always about physical reunion or rekindling a relationship. Sometimes, the entire purpose of thinking about someone is to lead you deeper into your own heart, to help you heal old wounds, to release patterns of attachment, or to learn how to love yourself more fully. And that can be one of the hardest lessons, realizing that the person on your mind isn't necessarily meant to stay in your life forever, but they are meant to leave a lasting impact on your soul. And when we start to see these connections through a spiritual lens, something shifts. We stop clinging to the idea of why and start embracing the process itself. We begin to trust that if someone is on our mind, it's for a reason. Even if we don't fully understand that reason right now, we can trust that it will become clearer as we grow. But what about those moments when the thoughts feel overwhelming? When it feels like no matter what you do, you can't stop thinking about them? In those moments, it's important to remember that thoughts are energy. And energy, when left unprocessed, can build up and create tension. When you're thinking about someone constantly, it may help to consciously release the energy, not in a way that denies the connection, but in a way that allows you to find balance. One way to do this is through meditation. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and visualize the person you've been thinking about. Instead of trying to push them away, welcome them into your awareness. Acknowledge their presence. Feel whatever emotions arise: love, pain, longing, even anger, without judgment. Breathe into those emotions, allowing them to flow through you like a river. And as you breathe, Imagine gently releasing the energy. You're not letting go of the connection itself. You're simply releasing the hold that the thoughts have on you. This process can be incredibly powerful because it shifts the focus from external fixation to internal awareness. It reminds you that the connection isn't something outside of you. It's something that exists within your own heart. And when you start to approach it from this place of inner balance, you might notice that the thoughts become less consuming. They're still there, but they no longer control you. They become part of the background, something you can acknowledge without getting lost in. Another practice that can help is journaling. When someone is constantly on your mind, there's often a lot of unspoken emotion that needs to be expressed. Write it all down, your thoughts, your feelings, your questions. Don't hold back. Let it flow onto the page, as raw and real as it feels. Journaling creates a safe space for you to process the connection without judgment. And sometimes, simply putting your thoughts into words can bring a sense of clarity and release. But beyond meditation and journaling, perhaps the most important practice is compassion. Compassion for yourself and for the person you're thinking about. It's easy to get frustrated with yourself when you can't stop thinking about someone. You might wonder why you're so stuck, why you can't just move on. But what if, instead of trying to force yourself to stop thinking about them, you simply allowed yourself to feel what you're feeling? There's a spiritual principle that says, what we resist persists. The more we try to push something away, the stronger it becomes. But when we meet it with compassion, when we allow ourselves to feel without judgment, we create space for healing. We create space for the energy to shift naturally, without force. And this is where true spiritual growth happens, in the moments when we stop trying to control the process and start trusting it. When we stop fighting our thoughts and start listening to what they're trying to tell us. When we realize that constantly thinking about someone isn't a problem to be solved. It's an experience to be felt, a message to be received. You might even begin to see this connection as a gift. Not because it's easy, but because it's teaching you something profound about yourself. Maybe it's teaching you how to open your heart, even in the face of uncertainty. Maybe it's teaching you how to let go of attachment, how to trust the flow of life. Or maybe it's simply reminding you that love, in its purest form, is never truly lost. It changes, it evolves, but it always leaves its mark on the soul. So, if you find yourself constantly thinking about someone, don't see it as a burden. See it as an invitation to go deeper into your own heart, to explore the parts of yourself that are calling for your attention. Trust that the thoughts are there for a reason, even if you don't fully understand that reason yet. And above all, be gentle with yourself. The spiritual path isn't about having all the answers. It's about being present with the mystery. It's about learning to hold space for both the questions and the silence, for both the connection and the letting go. In time, you may find that the thoughts don't control you anymore. They'll still come and go, but they'll feel lighter, softer. You'll have learned what you needed to learn, and the connection will have done its job. Not by giving you all the answers, but by guiding you home to yourself. Because that's the true spiritual meaning of constantly thinking about someone. It's not about them. It's about you. It's about your journey, your healing, your awakening. It's about remembering that love isn't something outside of you. It's something that lives within you, always. There's something undeniably sacred about the process of thinking deeply about someone. It forces us to confront emotions we may have ignored, forgotten, or tried to suppress. When we're constantly thinking about someone, especially in a spiritual sense, it becomes a mirror, a reflection of what's happening in the depths of our soul. At times, these persistent thoughts can feel like a longing for something we believe we've lost. But here's the truth. Nothing that is meant for your soul can ever truly be lost. Whether this person remains in your life physically or not, the impact they've had on you is eternal. And sometimes, their presence in your mind is simply a reminder of that, of the lessons you've learned, of the love you've shared, of the parts of yourself they've awakened. In spiritual circles, there's often talk of soulmates, twin flames, and karmic connections. These terms describe the different kinds of soul-level bonds we can have with others. When someone is constantly on your mind, they may fall into one of these categories. But it's important to remember that the label isn't what matters. It's the experience itself. A karmic connection is one where two souls meet to help each other clear old energy, often by triggering deep emotions or unresolved wounds. These connections can be intense, even painful, but they're meant to serve a higher purpose, to help both souls evolve. If you're thinking about someone who caused you pain, it might be because your soul is asking you to release that karmic energy, to heal the wound they triggered and break free from the cycle. On the other hand, a soulmate connection tends to feel more comforting, more familiar. Soulmates aren't always romantic partners. They can be friends, family members, or anyone who enters your life to help you grow. When you're thinking about a soulmate, it's often because their energy brought something beautiful into your life, something that your soul needed at that time. These thoughts can serve as gentle reminders of the love and support that still surrounds you, even if they're no longer physically present. Then there's the twin flame connection, which is perhaps the most intense of all. Twin flames are believed to be two halves of the same soul, separated before birth and destined to meet again in this lifetime. If you're thinking about someone constantly, and it feels as though their presence in your life triggered profound spiritual awakening, they may be your twin flame. Twin flame connections are often characterized by deep emotional and energetic bonds, periods of separation, and a strong sense of mirroring, where they reflect your deepest fears and desires back to you. But regardless of whether it's a karmic connection, a soulmate, or a twin flame, the spiritual meaning behind constantly thinking about someone remains the same. It's an opportunity for growth. It's an invitation to heal, to awaken, to expand your understanding of love and connection. It's important to note that not every persistent thought about someone has to be tied to longing or pain. Sometimes, you might find yourself thinking about someone who made you feel truly seen, someone who brought light into your life. In these moments, those thoughts can be a source of joy and gratitude, a reminder of the beauty that exists in the world and in you. When we reflect on the spiritual meaning of these thoughts, it's helpful to ask ourselves a few gentle questions. What emotions arise when I think of this person? Are you feeling love, sadness, regret, hope, or something else entirely? Identifying the emotion can help you understand what your soul is trying to process. What does this person represent to me? Do they symbolize a specific time in your life, a dream you once had, or a part of yourself you're trying to reconnect with? What can I learn from this connection? Every person who stays on our mind is a teacher in some way. Whether they've brought joy or pain, they've played a role in your spiritual journey. And sometimes, the answer isn't immediate. You might not fully understand why someone is on your mind until much later, after you've had time to process and grow. That's okay. Spiritual lessons don't always reveal themselves right away. Sometimes, they unfold slowly, like petals opening to the light. There's also another layer to this experience. The possibility that when you're thinking about someone constantly, they might be thinking about you too. This isn't about wishful thinking. It's about the interconnected nature of energy. Just as you can sense when someone is nearby without seeing them, you can sense when someone is holding space for you in their heart. It's as if your souls are having a silent conversation, exchanging energy in ways that go beyond words. In these moments, it's not about trying to reach out or seek confirmation. It's about trusting that the connection exists, even if it remains unspoken. Trusting that the bond, whether temporary or eternal, has a purpose. One of the most profound lessons in constantly thinking about someone is learning how to hold space for both the connection and yourself. It's about finding balance, honoring the love or memory of that person while still being present in your own life. It's easy to get lost in thoughts of what could have been or what might still be, but true spiritual growth comes from learning to be present with what is. This doesn't mean denying your thoughts or emotions. It means allowing them to exist without letting them take over. It means being compassionate with yourself, recognizing that it's okay to think about someone deeply. It's part of being human. But it also means gently reminding yourself that your life isn't on hold because of these thoughts. You can honor the connection while still moving forward. Sometimes, thinking about someone constantly is a way of your soul saying, "You're ready to heal this." It's an invitation to bring love and compassion to the parts of yourself that feel tender, to release old patterns of attachment, and to step into a new chapter of your life with an open heart. Because ultimately, that's what all spiritual connections are about, opening your heart. Whether they stay in your life or leave, whether they bring joy or pain, every connection is an opportunity to expand your capacity to love. Not just others, but yourself. To see that love isn't something you get from someone else. It's something you awaken within yourself. So, if someone is constantly on your mind, take it as a call to deepen your connection with yourself. Honor what they've brought into your life, even if it was difficult. Trust that the thoughts are guiding you toward greater self-awareness, greater healing, greater love. And remember, you don't have to have all the answers right now. The spiritual path is a journey, not a destination. Allow yourself to be present with the mystery. Allow yourself to grow, to heal, to trust. And in time, you'll find that the thoughts no longer feel heavy. They'll simply become part of your story, a chapter in the beautiful unfolding of your soul's journey. There's a profound beauty in recognizing that constantly thinking about someone is part of your soul's unfolding. It's like standing at the edge of a vast, silent ocean. Each thought is a ripple on the surface, carrying with it a message, a lesson, a whisper from something deeper. And the longer you stay present with these thoughts, without resisting them, the more clarity begins to emerge. One of the greatest spiritual lessons we can learn is how to stay open, how to allow ourselves to feel fully without being consumed by what we feel. Constantly thinking about someone can be overwhelming, but it's also an invitation to practice this openness. It's a call to expand your heart, to soften into the experience rather than harden against it. And this brings us to the idea of detachment. Not in the sense of cutting yourself off from love or connection, but in learning to hold it lightly. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring or stop feeling. It means you stop clinging. It means you stop attaching your sense of self to the presence or absence of another person. It means recognizing that love isn't something you possess. It's something you flow with. When you're constantly thinking about someone, it's easy to fall into the trap of attachment. Wanting answers, wanting resolution, wanting things to be a certain way. But the spiritual path asks something different of us. It asks us to trust that even if we don't have all the answers, the experience is meaningful. To trust that even if we don't end up with the outcome we desire, we're being guided towards something greater. This kind of trust isn't always easy. In fact, it often feels like standing in the dark, not knowing which way to turn. But it's in that very darkness that we find our inner light, the part of us that doesn't depend on external circumstances, the part of us that knows we are whole, even when life feels uncertain. When you start to approach these persistent thoughts from a place of trust rather than fear, something begins to shift. Instead of feeling burdened by them, you start to feel curious. You begin to ask, what is this teaching me? How is this helping me grow? And even if the answers don't come right away, simply asking the questions opens a door. It allows you to move from a place of longing to a place of learning. And perhaps that's the most profound spiritual meaning of constantly thinking about someone. It's a path of learning, not just about them, but about yourself, about your capacity to love, your capacity to let go, your capacity to trust the unknown. In many ways, thinking about someone constantly is like a form of inner alchemy. You take the raw material of your emotions, the longing, the love, the confusion, and through presence and reflection, you transform it into something golden. You transform it into wisdom, into compassion, into deeper self-awareness. There's a practice that can help with this process. It's called heart-center meditation, and it's a way of working with thoughts and emotions without resisting them. Here's how it works. Find a quiet space. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and take a few deep breaths. Allow your body to relax. Bring your awareness to your heart. Imagine your breath moving in and out of your heart, creating a gentle rhythm. Invite the person into your heart space. Visualize the person you've been thinking about. See them standing before you, surrounded by light. Notice any emotions that arise: love, longing, pain, gratitude. Whatever comes up, allow it to be there without judgment. Offer compassion. Imagine surrounding both yourself and the person in a field of compassion. You don't need to say or do anything. Just hold space for both of you, allowing the energy of compassion to flow freely. Release the attachment. As you continue breathing into your heart, visualize gently releasing the attachment to the outcome. You're not releasing the love. You're simply letting go of the need for things to be a certain way. Trust that whatever is meant to be will unfold in its own time. This practice can be deeply healing because it helps you move from a place of clinging to a place of openness. It reminds you that love isn't about holding on. It's about being present. It's about allowing yourself to feel fully while trusting that life is always guiding you toward greater wholeness. And that's the paradox of constantly thinking about someone. It feels like a longing for them, but it's really a longing for something within yourself. It's a longing to reconnect with a part of you that feels whole, that feels free, that feels at peace no matter what's happening around you. As you continue on this journey, you may find that the intensity of the thoughts begins to fade, not because the connection has lessened, but because you've grown. You've learned how to hold space for love without being consumed by it. You've learned how to honor the connection without losing yourself in it. And that's the gift. That's the transformation. The person who once occupied your mind so fully becomes less of a fixation and more of a guide who led you back to yourself. It's important to remember that spiritual connections don't always lead to physical outcomes. Sometimes their purpose is purely energetic, serving as a catalyst for your own inner growth. And that's okay. Whether or not this person remains in your life, the love you've awakened through thinking about them is real. It's yours. It's something you carry with you, something that will continue to shape you in beautiful ways. So, if you're constantly thinking about someone, trust the process. Trust that it's part of your journey, part of your soul's unfolding. Allow yourself to feel without resistance, to learn without clinging, to love without attachment. And know that, in the end, it's not really about them. It's about you. It's about the person you're becoming, the lessons you're learning, the love you're awakening within your own heart. And that, in itself, is a sacred thing. So breathe. Trust. Let it unfold. And remember that every thought, every feeling, every connection is leading you back to where you belong. Home, within yourself. And perhaps that's one of the greatest realizations you can have on this journey, that everything you're experiencing is ultimately leading you back to yourself. When someone occupies your mind so persistently, it can feel like they hold the key to something essential, something you long to unlock. But over time, you begin to understand that the key was never outside of you. It's always been within you, waiting for you to turn inward and discover it. This is where the idea of energetic integration comes into play. Constantly thinking about someone can indicate that their energy is intertwining with yours, triggering parts of your soul that are asking to be integrated and healed. It's not just about the external connection, it's about the internal transformation they spark within you. Let's explore what that means. When you think about someone intensely, it stirs emotions, some pleasant, some painful. These emotions can act as doorways, leading you into deeper layers of your subconscious mind. You might find that memories resurface, both from your time with them and from earlier points in your life. This isn't random. Often, when someone enters your mind so vividly, they act as a catalyst, bringing to the surface things that were hidden, things that need to be seen. For example, if thinking about this person triggers feelings of unworthiness or abandonment, it might be because they're reflecting an old wound that hasn't fully healed. And while your mind might initially focus on them, thinking they're the cause of these emotions, what's really happening is that they're helping you become aware of something that was already within you. This is why constantly thinking about someone can be such a powerful spiritual experience. It gives you the opportunity to do deep inner work. Instead of getting lost in the story of who they are or what they represent, you can begin to ask, what is this teaching me about myself? What part of me is asking to be healed or reclaimed? And healing doesn't mean forgetting or suppressing your feelings. Healing means bringing love to the parts of yourself that feel wounded. It means acknowledging the emotions that arise without judgment and allowing them to flow through you. It means trusting that even the most painful thoughts and feelings are part of your soul's path, guiding you toward greater wholeness. In many spiritual teachings, this process is referred to as soul retrieval, the act of reclaiming lost or fragmented parts of yourself. When someone stays on your mind persistently, it might be because they're holding a piece of your soul's story, a piece that you need to retrieve, integrate, and bring back into your heart. Here's an example. Imagine you once loved someone deeply, but things didn't work out. Maybe you carry regret, longing, or even resentment toward them. Every time you think of them, those emotions rise to the surface. But instead of seeing these thoughts as a problem, what if you saw them as an invitation to retrieve the part of yourself that still feels tied to that story? What if, by sitting with those emotions and offering them compassion, you could reclaim your own sense of peace and wholeness? This is the deeper spiritual meaning behind constantly thinking about someone. It's not about them, but about the parts of yourself that are ready to be seen, felt, and healed. And once you begin this process of inner integration, you may find that the intensity of your thoughts begins to shift. It's not that the connection disappears. It's that it no longer feels like something outside of you. Instead, it becomes something you carry within you, something that has helped shape who you are. But what happens when, after all this reflection, the thoughts still persist? What if, despite your efforts to heal and let go, they remain on your mind? This is where surrender comes in. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the need to control the process. It means trusting that if someone is still on your mind, there's a reason, even if you don't fully understand it yet. It means allowing the thoughts to be there without resistance, knowing that in time, clarity will come. Surrender is one of the hardest spiritual practices because it requires faith. Faith that life is unfolding exactly as it's meant to, even when you can't see the full picture. It asks you to let go of the idea that you need to have all the answers right now. It asks you to trust that whatever this connection is, whatever purpose it's serving, it's guiding you towards something greater. And in the space of surrender, something profound can happen. You might find that the thoughts begin to soften, not because you forced them away, but because you've made peace with them. You've stopped resisting the experience and started flowing with it. You've allowed the connection to exist without needing to control or define it. And perhaps that's when the true magic of this journey reveals itself. When you realize that constantly thinking about someone isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of love. Not just love for them, but love for yourself. Love for the parts of you that are awakening, healing, and growing because of this connection. It's important to remember that every connection, whether it stays or fades, leaves an imprint on your soul. Some connections stay with us for a lifetime, while others serve their purpose and move on. But no matter what, they all play a role in our evolution. They all help us remember who we are. So, if someone is on your mind, honor the connection. Honor the love, the lessons, the growth. But most importantly, honor yourself. Because at the heart of this experience is your own awakening, your own journey back to wholeness. In the end, it's not about finding closure from the outside. It's about finding peace within. It's about trusting that every thought, every emotion, every connection is part of your soul's path. And it's about knowing that, no matter what happens, you are always whole, always worthy, always loved.